All right, guys, I hope you got that popcorn ready that I told you to get a couple weeks ago when Mitch McConnell first came out against President Trump and confirmed an alleged Joe Biden victory that pissed off President Trump, right? And now, fast forward a week, maybe a couple weeks now, it seems like this stuff was so long ago. We now have President Trump doubling down on demanding the $2,000 stimulus checks and trying to fight against big tech by repealing Section 230. And Lindsey Graham has also come out and backed the president and confirmed that the president is more willing than ever to get it done. Okay, so guys, there's a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of information that's come out since Christmas Eve. I know I've made quite a few videos on this, but I think this is important because what we're witnessing right now, guys, is a historic political realignment, and President Trump is showing that he has the ability to flip the Republican Party on its head. And that may be what's about to happen. But before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So first things first, we go to Twitter and check out what the president's been saying. All right, so starting on Christmas Eve, President Trump had a series of tweets that are very interesting, in which he says Twitter is going wild with their flags, trying hard to suppress even the truth, just shows how dangerous they are, purposely stifling free speech, very dangerous for our country. Does Congress know that this is how communism starts? Cancel culture at its worst. End Section 230. So President Trump is renewing his call to end Section 230, which is why he vetoed the NDAA, or part of the reason why he vetoed it, probably the main reason, which will be revoted on next week to potentially be overturned by Congress. And according to the mainstream media, it is expected that that will be overturned, but I'm going to touch on more of that later. Now, he also followed up that tweet with, I saved at least 8 Republican senators, including Mitch, from losing in the last rigged for president election. Now they almost all sit back and watch me fight against a crook and vicious foe, the radical left Democrats. I will never forget. So again, guys, this is just another example of the president just openly saying, I don't care anymore about party politics. He is openly attacking the number 2 Republican in the country, Mitch McConnell, at this point. And he's doing it more often on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if you guys remember when this first started, they were kind of soft attacks, soft jabs. President Trump now, he's just coming out against Mitch. He's just showing that straight up, like, I'm not on the same page with Mitch. And he's probably very upset that the Republicans are not getting behind his demands like they should. At least that's my opinion. Now, he tweeted Merry Christmas, of course. And then he said, made many calls and had meetings at Trump International in Palm Beach, Florida. Why would politicians not want to give people $2,000 rather than only $600? It wasn't their fault. It was trying to give our people the money. And this lends itself exactly to what I was just saying. Mitch McConnell has said absolutely nothing since President Trump demanded the $2,000 stimulus and to get rid of the pork out of the spending bill on Tuesday, 2 nights before Christmas Eve, and he has said nothing after Thursday, in which the Democrats tried to get a unanimous consent vote that failed in the House in order to amend the coronavirus relief package and have $2,000 stimulus checks instead of $600. He has said nothing since then. And these series of tweets, in my mind, shows me kind of where President Trump's thinking is at in regards to that. Now, Lindsey Graham comes out and says, after spending some time with President Donald Trump today, I am convinced he is more determined than ever to increase stimulus payments to $2,000 per person and challenge Section 230, big tech liability protection. Both are reasonable demands, and I hope Congress is listening. The biggest winner would be the American people. Now, this is Lindsey Graham, who is voicing his support for the $2,000 stimulus checks and also voicing his support to challenge Section 230. This is more evidence of certain Republicans are coming out and clearly aligning with the president, while certain other Republicans are not. And this is why I said get your popcorn ready, because the Democrats are going to vote on a standalone bill on Monday in the House to increase the stimulus checks to $2,000. If it passed the House, which it looks like it probably will, and it gets to the Senate right now, if you assume that all the Democrats are going to vote yes on it, then you really only need 13 Republican votes, which will get you to 60. Right now, I think it's 45 Democrats plus 2 independents that caucus with the Democrats. So if you got 47 votes, you need 13 Republican votes. If Lindsey Graham is a vote, then now you need 12 Republican votes, which doesn't really seem like a lot. Are there 12 Republicans that will align with the president? That's the question. Or will they align with Mitch McConnell? That's assuming that Mitch McConnell doesn't want to increase the payments, which at this point, we really don't know. However, we have a clue in terms of what the Republicans might be thinking, as Senator Roy Blunt, who is the 4th ranking Republican, came out on Christmas Day saying that the $2,000 COVID-19 stimulus checks won't pass the Senate. President Trump's call for Congress to amend the $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill to increase direct payments to eligible Americans from $600 to $2,000 cannot pass the Senate, according to a top Republican in the body, who said he remains hopeful the commander-in-chief will sign the measure. Speaking to reporters Thursday, Senator Roy Blunt, a Republican from Missouri, cautioned that it would be a, quote, mistake to not sign the coronavirus relief bill. Quote, there's been some apparent misunderstanding about what's in the regular appropriating bill and what's in the COVID relief bill, and generally the regular appropriating bill includes things the administration asked for, the 4th Senate Republican began saying. Quote, it took us a long time to get to where we are. I think reopening that bill would be a mistake. These are some very interesting comments from the 4th ranking Republican, because it's apparent that Lindsey Graham, in the grand scheme of the Republican hierarchy, is basically a nobody. He's a foot soldier. But Roy Jones is the 4th ranking one. And the higher up you get in terms of what they say gives you a closer look at what Mitch McConnell is actually thinking. And again, this is what the New York Post is saying. He's saying, this is a quote, that he wants the president to sign the current COVID relief bill. And he's saying that the president is confused about the difference between the annual spending bill and the COVID-19 relief bill. And he's saying that reopening the bill would be a mistake. And since they were combined into one bill, basically, he's telling the president, not only do you need to sign off on the COVID relief, you need to sign off on the current spending bill, and revisiting that would be a mistake. So he's openly saying, let's go with the status quo. Let's go with the COVID-19 relief. And I don't want to cut out the pork in the spending bill. This is what he's saying. This is the quote. I'm not making this up. I'm just telling you. Hey, I have to report the news. This is what they're saying. Asked what was the best way out of this political stalemate, the GOP lawmaker replied, the quote, the best way out of this is for the president to sign the bill, and I still hope that that's what he decides, which again means that he wants the president to sign off on both. Blunt's comments make him the highest ranking member of the Senate GOP leadership. The response is President Trump called the bipartisan relief bill a, quote, disgrace on Tuesday evening and called on Congress to amend it. Blunt warned that the GOP would not cave if the Democrat-led House altered the bill to increase the payment amounts. If the Democrats did that, I would be surprised if we dealt with it, the Missouri senator said. Pressed on whether a bill with $2,000 payments would be able to get the necessary 60 votes to pass in the upper chambers of Congress, Blunt said it would not. All right, guys. So there you go. I mean, that's what he's saying. That's a direct quote. That's not me making it up. That's a direct quote. So this is what's going on. There are 3 major things that you guys should be aware of and concerned about. The first is the government shutting down. I think the government shuts down on the 29th if President Trump does not sign the bill, and it will be a partial shutdown. So the House is going to negotiate an agreement to keep the government open, and to extend the opening until President Trump signs the main spending bill. That's the first thing that politicians are probably going to try to take care of next week. The second thing will be the $2,000 stimulus checks. Now, Nancy Pelosi says that she is proposing a standalone $2,000 bill that will have a regular vote in the House, and we're going to see who votes for it and who doesn't. If it passes the House and it goes to the Senate, we're going to see if the Senate on Tuesday is going to pass it. Again, if you assume all the Democrats are voting for it, and that's if you assume that they are, plus Lindsey Graham, will 12 Republicans get behind President Trump? Now, the other part of that is a lot of people want to see the spending bill cleaned up. I want to see the spending bill cleaned up. However, in order for them to do that, to clean up that 5,000 some page document, it's literally going to take more than a few days. It literally would take them like a month to actually do that. So what I see happening is if the politicians actually do agree to clean it up, they're going to have to extend the government being open for at least another month temporarily to give themselves time to actually renegotiate and to clean it up. I'm not sure if that's something that they're actually going to agree on to do. I think that in regards to the president getting his demands, the most likely scenario, if they agree on the $2,000 checks, which who knows they will at this point, but if they do, he's probably going to get that, but he probably won't get the spending bill cleaned up. They probably just won't do it. And again, you saw a Republican, the fourth ranking one, said that he doesn't really want to reopen it. He doesn't want to touch it. We all know the Democrats don't want to touch it because the Republicans offered a unanimous consent vote on cleaning it up in the House on Thursday, and the Democrats denied that. So it seems that both sides right now, they're on the same page when it comes to the spending bill. And that should be no surprise to you guys because they do this every single year. This is why I've made this point to you guys. The politicians do it every single year. This is a bipartisan thing. The Republicans and the Democrats both agree on spending on BS and pork. They do it every single year. People shouldn't be surprised. What they disagree on is how much money we should actually spend in America. That's what they disagree on. That's basically the second holdup. Now, the third holdup is Section 230 and the NDAA, which is a National Defense Authorization Act, which is the military spending bill. Now, the mainstream media has universally agreed that the House and the Republicans, again, this is an establishment thing, they're just going to override Trump's veto on that. I will say there has been some rumblings lately, particularly in the House, that the Republicans may not necessarily vote to override Trump's veto. Now, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy in particular said that many Republicans would not vote to override it, even though he did vote for it. But some more establishment types like Liz Cheney has said that they must override the president's veto. I think there's a lot of disagreement among Republicans in the House. Again, we will see on Monday exactly how that goes. That might be up in the air as well too. Who knows? Maybe President Trump gets his way with Section 230 and maybe they make some modifications. I don't see him repealing the whole thing. I just don't see him doing it. But maybe they can get some modifications. Now, if enough Republicans get behind the president on a defense bill, which Rand Paul has indicated that he might, and Lindsey Graham has indicated that he might, it could be a fight. But the establishment Democrats are behind it and the establishment Republicans are behind it. If you listen to the mainstream media's narrative on the NDAA, it's a losing battle for Trump. Now, back to the COVID-19 relief package. This is not good for the establishment Republicans. And the main reason why is that this is literally taking place a week before Georgia, guys. A week. And if it passes the House and it gets to the Senate, then there's going to be direct eyes on who votes yes and who votes no. Okay? There's going to be direct eyes on that. The NDAA, they can just override the veto because most people are kind of torn on that issue anyways. People want to increase the military spending. They want to support the military. That's not as controversial as an issue as these stimulus checks. We're talking about people's livelihoods here with these stimulus checks. So if the Republicans don't fall in line behind it, that's going to be a huge, huge negative going into these Georgia Senate runoff race. And it could cost them both seats. It really could. And I would not want to be Mitch McConnell right now, because he's definitely stuck between a rock and a hard place, evidenced by the fact that he hasn't said anything. And really, the longer they wait on this, President Trump has the trump card, because he can just pocket veto it. Because he received the legislation on Thursday, he has 10 days, not counting Sunday, to veto it. And because there's going to be a new Congress that comes in on January 3rd, that means that Congress will go out of session. Which means since Congress goes out of session, then the bill will automatically die. So if President Trump just doesn't do anything, and the Democrats all come out and be like, we want this, we're just waiting on the Republicans, and everybody's going to be able to see the vote. You can't hide your vote, right? Everybody's going to be able to see the vote. It might look bad for the Republicans. Now, one strategy that they could do is that they could say, well, we want to clean up the spending bill too. We can't agree on the spending bill and both, like the president said, then that's why we can't agree. That's probably the only talking point that they can probably use at this point to try to justify not signing off on it. And that's probably what they will do. I would not be surprised if that's what happens. But the fourth ranking Republican already came out and said he doesn't even want to revisit the spending bill. Then it also leaves the question of if they do agree on the $2,000 stimulus checks, and they also agree not to modify the spending bill, because they really don't want to do that. Would President Trump sign off on that? I don't know. I don't know if he'll sign off on that. At this point, guys, I'm just trying to outline things for you and some possible scenarios at this point. There's a possibility that if Trump just waits it out, we get nothing and then we have to start over. There's a possibility that Democrats and Republicans could come to an agreement on $2,000 stimulus checks, extend the government, keep it open for a long time, agree to negotiate on the spending, and maybe Trump sees that as enough. He signs off on it. We get the stimulus. President Trump could go ahead and veto it, giving Congress the opportunity to override it, which I really don't see that happening at this point, because he really doesn't need to. And the longer he waits it out, the more pressure goes on the Republicans, and the more he can basically punish them for not giving in to his demands, which we've seen the president more than willing and able to do at this point. And that's probably what's going to happen. Or he could go ahead and just sign the COVID relief package as it is right now, get the $600 stimulus checks, and just cave on the spending bill. He can cave on everything and just, let it go. And honestly, I don't see that happening either. So at this point, it almost seems like the $600 stimulus checks and the status quo is the least likely scenario at this point. It looks like we're either going to go big and get the $2,000 stimulus checks, or we're going to get nothing, at least for right now, and have to start over. That's just kind of what it looks like. Or maybe they can come to some agreement in between there. But at this point, guys, next week, the Monday and Tuesday are going to be crazy. So I'm going to be all over it and let you guys know exactly what's going on. So stay tuned. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.